Greetings everyone, Switch here. In this video, I'm going to talk more about this both a theory and on my thoughts. It's about the Apple family's influence into society in Equestria. As we all know, that Apple family, also known as sometimes Apple clan, is the largest family of all Equestria. They had literally settled down across the entire kingdom. Even then, Granny Smith's parents were the ones who founded the Ponyville. But there were one thing that had in thought in my mind lately. How much about the Apple family's influence in the rest of Equestria, about the society itself? I mean, the Apple family are living across the entire kingdom, but how much are they basic influence of the rest of society? Like, some of them might of them lives in the major cities, but how much could they have their influence in the politics? Like, we all know that all the families had their own apple farms, like in Appaloosa, Ponyville, for example. But otherwise, we have no idea how much of they influence the rest of the society. But if we say focus first on the Ponyville for a moment, we know that Granny Smith's parents were the ones who founded the Ponyville from the first beginning. And even they are long past, Granny Smith, she has some sort of primordial role in the Ponyville society. Even many ponies there believe that she is too old to do anything. But she is very much a role model for the society. Like, she actually had been part of the society ever since it was founded. But how much more about the Apple family the influence the rest of the society, like the rest of the Equestria? There has been very few details about this hasn't been thought about much. Like, for example, after that Applejack became the bearer of element of honesty, her role model as the honest pony of Equestria has been done. She's never lied. Well, she has before. Once when she was younger and once when she was under Discord's influence. But otherwise from this, how much more about the Apple family can use their influence to connection? Well, we do know that Cheryl Jubilee had connection to Applejack. She normally helps her, so it is a possibility that she could use the Apple family's influence to make her cell production even better. It is possible. Because the Apple family has never used their influence for any bad things. They always want to make the best for the family. For example, in the Ultimate Timeline, where caused by starlight glimmers want to alter time, we saw the Apple family spend all the resources they had to make some applesauce or something apple food for the soldiers in the war against Sombra. But otherwise from that part, the much of the society has been very much influenced by the Apple family. Even we don't see it much, but there are some parts in the family has been influenced. Like in Maidhand, for example, the Orange family, who are related to the Apple family. In the Chronicles of the Lost Mar or the Crudiamar Crusaders, we know that Applejack spent some time with her and her relatives in Manhattan with her Orange family. So there is a possibility, even they are not same use the same name Apple family, but they're gonna have some sort of influence of the society, the upper class society in Manhattan. And even so, we don't know much about the Apple family's directly politics. We only know if we had always assumed that they all are apple farmers. But what if they aren't? What if some of the Apple family had been focused on something else, like within politics, or some could have been searching for a career within the Navy, or perhaps within the Wonderbolts? I mean, there is overall very much of this could have been possible. Even we don't know much about the Apple family's directly involvement with the society itself, but each family in each major city could have had some sort of part of the society. For example, where a city which has maybe were founded by a family. Let's say if let's say if the city was founded by a family over 100 years ago, and they became rich, and not as much powerful, but they became rich because of the city's growing rate and how much trading what they're doing with other cities, with the locals and the local population nearby, and how much more. So in that means the city's public founding family could have more influence of the society's growing, like having some connection to other cities and other parts of the world, like in shipping parts. I mean, worth that much. If the Apple family are influence, if that would be one part of influence, they would most likely be in trading. As we know, the Apple family in Ponyville, they transport their some of the harvest to the market in town. In that part, they are providing the town with some the apples that they need for baking, sauce, juice, cider, etc. But what otherwise from other part of the family that doesn't live in Ponyville? Let's say from Appaloosa. That town was founded in middle desert, and they are also doing some apple farming as well. But what are those who lives across Equestria? Those who lives perhaps in the northern? There were even those who lived in Manhattan, like Babs Seed's family. They are perhaps doing some sort of apple farming as well. But what if they aren't actually doing some apple farming as their cousins in Ponyville? What if they have it in something else? Like they're still within the apple business, but doing something much bit different. They could have been you or working as transporting apples across Equestria or perhaps even beyond that. What if they're using their connections to other kingdoms like the Griffinstone or Salarabia or Meritonia? It's very likely they could have been using some of their connections with other kingdoms to transporting some apple goods for any other types. But how much of the influence of the society itself? Well, except for this, Luna and Celestia, they are since they are the royals in the kingdom. But the Apple family have a very strong connection to almost entire kingdom. Not even necessarily perhaps within the politics itself, but it could have been otherwise. From my beliefs, in my further thoughts, that they could have been, it could have been they could have been using their influence in the politics where they live, like make sure that the politics or the politicians always focus what is best for the society, for the best community, for the town's best, and what is not best for. Like using some of their influence to maybe talk to politicians to put aside what the budget for the town's money we're going to focus on for school, healthcare, sort of things. And it's possible the Apple family, who lives nowhere else than in Equestria. So, I mean, if since the Apple family is one of the largest in the entire in a kingdom, but what if they use their influence to help others, no matter because, like, for example, since the Apple family has some sort of connection to the buckball sport, recently has become very popular in Equestria. But otherwise, much about the family itself perhaps doesn't have seems to be much in its influence. Even if the family still perhaps doesn't seem to be believing they have much as an influence on the society or beyond that. But in fact, they have, even if they don't perhaps even think about it. Applejack, she has been known across the quest that she's one of the strongest ponies in her family, and that she is one of those most polite and the most liable ponies that there could be. Like, she is honest, she always thinks and always help her friends and family for never on any danger. What about the others? Apple Bloom, for example. We know that she wants to help other ponies, especially younger ones, to find their cutie mark. They, she wants to find their purpose for others to help to find their cutie mark, even if they perhaps have seen much. But they have been showing both Bloom and her friends are much a big influence on the society just in Ponyville. That proves that even the Apple family, even if this is a small member of the family, seems maybe don't believe that she has indirectly influence of society, but they have. Apple Bloom is a very important part of the family of this of Ponyville. She helps with us, my friends, to find others to find the cutie mark. Applejack. She's a very much influenced because she's the pony of honesty. She has been a teacher at the school for some time now, for almost 2 seasons, and she has been defeating numbers of enemies like Tirek, Sombra, Chrysalis, and even Glow over from time to time. So why would that mean that Applejack and her family has some sort of influence of society? But my thought about this is that the Apple family, even if this seems not be, they don't believe that they much has much influence in the society itself, but they do. Much of we focused on very much details about the family itself. Some of the family might be living far or far apart from each other, perhaps maybe several miles. For example, if one family lives in a board near the close accord border to near Crystal Empire, and some of the family maybe lives across almost to the south, even some of the families was widespread in entire kingdom, but they always had their influence part of the region where they live, like in the politics, in the business there, or some other parts. They always want the best for the other ponies. They work together as a community, help others, even try to improve, and even try to make it that their towns are profit, and even want much as a good reputation. But how much of the theory and the thoughts about this could have been real? Well, if we focus most upon that, the Apple family has sometimes a great influence. But how much would they use the influence near the society itself? Well, let's say if the Apple if the Apple family did had some influence on most of the other basic. What if there's some famous pony or had put in jail for something they haven't done, and that the Apple family, who's maybe as kind of close friends to them, will try to use some of their influence to try to get the pony out from jail? That could have happened, but it depends from what case it happened, for what cause. But much of that, the Apple family has a great deal of influence on the rest of society. But how much more and how deep would this go? That is something we can't imagine. But let's see if we do know. The Apple family has a great deal of influence on society. Applejack, Apple Bloom are two of them who has seemed to be much a great deal for the society itself. Applejack, who has helping not only to save Equestria for a number of times, but even to being a great deal to help her. Apple Bloom, she is a great part of the society in Ponyville. She has a very much influence because she helps other ponies to find a cutie mark. But how much more about the rest of the family who lives across the question, like Brayburn or Babseed? Babseed, for example, she actually started this cutie mark crusaders in Manhattan. But since she got her own cutie mark, it is very likely that she still continued to help others to help to find their cutie marks like her cousin Applebloom did. So, but what about Brayburn? We know that he is a very much a strong pony in both apple farming and as a buckball player. So it is very likely that he uses his influence as a buckball player rather across Equestria. But as long as they don't get that much their fame over their head, of course. But otherwise, the family itself has some influence, even if this seems not to be much as they notice about it, but they do have some sort of influence in society, with helping within the healthcare, transport, within the politics, some parts, and even some of the, even within the work in business, the family itself, even if they don't think maybe they don't have much an influence, but the family has also much great deeply intels of or detailed that influence. If the family doesn't wouldn't have that much as into apple farming, perhaps then they would not have much as an influence in society. But let's say if they did have much as an influence, even if the old apple family doesn't work anything else within the apple farming with nothing else, but they still could have, even with the family itself in their particular city where they live, or a small town like Ponyville or Manhattan or Trottingham. What if they do can have very strong connection to some of the politics or the politicians in their particular area, and that each family in a part of or Christian they want their region to be profitable and even safe. It is very likely that some of the opponents there will always help others, no matter what happens, like any sort of disaster or any economic disaster. But the family itself always stands up to help others, no matter question. But it's self about the family. Even if even if that someone in the family perhaps doesn't even knows that they are so much in great influence on the rest of the society. Like the Apple family, they always win their help to save others, even try to make the profits not only for themselves but to part of the region and the part of the city they lives in. Because who knows? Some of the families might have been has a great startup business, like the Sonner family in Manhattan, like the Orange family, who is part of the Apple family. They could have been working within some sort of shipping company or something. They could have been something doing something big company since Manhattan is one of the major cities in Equestria. So it is very likely they couldn't be using some of the connections with Apple family to working with this apples or something. But otherwise, the Apple family do have some sort of influence the rest of society, even we don't know exactly how much or how deep, but it is very possible they could have that. My theory is that their influence on society is to help others to improve not only for their own production or profit of farming, but also provide as a profit to the society they live in, like helping the towns to make a great profit in selling apples or any of the goods they have. I mean, even we don't much see that in the series itself, but the Apple family, no matter where they live in Equestria, they always had some sort of influence the rest of the region where they live. If, for example, if Granny Smith's parents didn't settle down in where Ponyville is supposed to be, they wouldn't be in Ponyville. They would not be in anymore. That would mean the Apple family would never have been there. Applejack, Apple Bloom, Big Mac probably wouldn't have never been born because their mother was born in Ponyville by part of the Pear family. So if the Ponyville wasn't founded, that would mean the Apple family and the Pear family would not have been connected, and the Apple family siblings, Applejack, Apple Bloom, and Big Mac would never have been born, and some other parts. But I do think, I know, the Apple family has a great deal of influence of the society, even which much of the details can be very much discussed how deep it goes, but how even well spread the influence are. But let's say if from my thoughts is correct, that they use some of the influence to help their region and the town where they live in to make it even more profitable, even more better for anyone else. They will only use their influence to help others, especially those having a small business that could end up in failing or being if some pony has a shop and this doesn't go so well for them, and that they can use on the influence trying to help other ponies to help that particular pony to get some money to keep this store open. I know that if that happened in Ponyville, I know for sure Applejack and Apple Bloom would do anything that they could to help the store to remain open. Even if that they would have to use some of their influence, like asking around in town if the people that or the opponents that could help try to donate some money to save the school, the school or the store or anything to be open or something to be restored. I know that the Apple family in Ponyville has a great deep voice that they are saying like their word has a deep meaning for the ponies there. And I think that's very like for Western Equestria, where no matter where the rest of the family lives, I believe each Apple family has a deep, strong voice and have their word means a lot for the opponents who lives in that particular region. But that's what I believe in my theories and of my thoughts about how Apple family could have been much influence on the society. But do I believe the Apple family could have some sort of influence on the rest of the Equestrian society? I really believe that. And how much deep and how far it can go and for what regions, only we can speculate in that. So if you have your own opinion, your thoughts about this, let me know in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe, leave a comment, and as always, this is Switch Diablo over and out.